and I thought I would go live here just for a little bit, here briefly. So let me know if you're watching, hit that like, and we can get this going. So you probably will have seen that I linked a few of the different articles or videos rather in the description to my YouTube video, and I wanted to spend some time highlighting them, talking about them, and kind of where I'm all going with this is that this is still just the beginning of the culture change that's happening here in Colorado at CU. No SCO Zone, what's up, man? Good to see ya. But there's a few different videos. One is a video from Heritage Sports talking about Coach Prime opening up this season against TCU, who he actually interviewed for a couple years back, and they hired Sonny Dykes over him. Now, the other couple videos that we have are an interview that Life in Football did with Kyrie Maines. If any of you know the correct pronunciation, please let me know, because I've seen his name pronounced both of those ways, and I'm still trying to figure out which one is the correct one. I'm going to go with Kyrie because he didn't correct Life in Football, I don't think, from the interview. And we also have a video from the pregame show that I put on where he's talking with Michael Westbrook, again, a CU legend. And it has been, again, so surreal and so, how do I put it? It's like rewarding. It feels like Christmas finally came, after all of these years, where you see just Prime just being here 6 months. We have people, legendary athletes who we haven't really heard from much or seen around the program, like starting to come back, make themselves seen, make themselves known again, get excited about being a part of a university that's valuing competitive football more. Again, with Kyrie Maines coming over here, Merry Christmas exactly sees the day. The type of athlete that we're bringing in here is just, again, it's so different than what we've had throughout most of my life, where there's a prioritization of speed. I talked about this, I think, in my live stream a little bit yesterday, but the culture and the preference that's being put on speed coming off the edge on defense, really speed everywhere. We're gonna need speed on the offensive line. How many people really talk about that with their football teams? And of course, we'll have speed at running back, at wide receiver, in the secondary. Our linebackers are going to be extremely quick. And again, this is just the beginning. Sometimes I feel like I can get so invested myself. I can get so caught up in, what's going on in the day today and, what is ahead for this year. But I think it's still so hard for me to believe that this is something that this is just the beginning of it. And, if anybody's watching live or on the replay that has followed Jackson State, or that is a Jackson State Tigers fan, I would just love to hear a little bit more of what that experience was like for you, kind of going into year 2 and year 3, and what the expectations were, because what I'm envisioning and what I'm believing in is that Coach Prime he's not going to do anything halfway. He's not going to man, for lack of a better term, he's not going to half-ass anything. He's going to go all out. He's going to give this program his everything. And I really do believe that, especially in the western part of the United States, that this could become the premier program where you want to be at. Of course, it could be the whole country, but I'm also looking at things a little bit, I guess, like more holistically. It's like we do have legendary programs in the South and in the SEC, the big dogs, Alabama and Georgia, and maybe Texas will be back this year. I'm hoping, and they'll be in the SEC soon, and Oklahoma as well. But man, if you're kind of excluding all of that, you got your Ohio State and Notre Dame, a lot more programs with like a historical brand notoriety and reach, especially out west. It's really up for the taking. USC's even with their success, since Pete Carroll left, they've been pretty inconsistent, and they haven't been up to their standard. And really, if you're looking from the Mountain Time Zone through the Pacific Time Zone, I mean, I definitely think that Colorado can be there, like, as that premier program very soon within those two time zones, and they're going to be able to. It's going to be cool to see like what happens now with. I think the next move that's going to come this summer is whatever's happening with Colorado in this conference, rumor mill and all that. And it just doesn't seem like Coach Prime. It doesn't seem like the direction that this university is taking to sit on their feet and wait for something to come to them. Like, they're going to go and get it themselves. So I think if you see them, leave leave the Pac-12 after this year and go to another conference, it's only going to increase the exposure, the recruiting, and hopefully we're playing more games in the Central and Eastern time zone, because again, that's where the bulk of the recruits are going to be coming from. That's where the bulk of the prime TV spots are as well. And of course, Coach Prime is putting in so much work into this year and preparing to, shock all the pundits, shock all the haters, blow expectations, heck, even blow the expectations that, Colorado fans have for the university, like myself. I think for me, like I've said, an A+ year is getting a bowl win this year. That would just be incredible. But it's very evident that he has higher expectations for this team, going into this year. But I really think that we're seeing something where, this is just the groundwork being laid. The baby steps are being made towards, really becoming a part of that national power conversation. And again, if Coach Prime is only, recruiting for a couple months, and he's already able to get us into that, top 25 for just high school recruiting, and into the top 20 when it comes to, the overall recruiting class, with the transfer portal. I can't imagine what he's going to do with a full year of results and, expectations being beat nationally, and, putting on a good show. I think the other thing that I love about Prime, and I can forget this, is like, yes, he's going to play, and he's going to put out a product on the field that is winning football, and we all believe that here. But the other thing is that, like, this is going to be it's going to be so much fun to watch them win with this certain style, with putting up points, with all the dogs that they're bringing here that want to show out, that are confident, that are extremely competitive. So you're going to see them win, really physical, tough games. You're going to see them blow out opponents and, just be highlights after highlights. I don't think that, I think with whatever level we see that this year, it's only going to continue to grow. So I think that's just what I wanted to get on and express here. It's hard to see the future, but I have this intuition, and so many of you have this belief, that have followed Prime so closely, Coach Prime so closely, that like what to expect, what's coming. And I mean, I just can't wait to see it. Hopefully, like with Folsom Field, we can expand seating at some point. I'm thinking that there's probably some more room at that north end zone side of the field. I'm wondering what other TV shows and other promotions come up with the university. Again, like what I was talking about yesterday, it's not only about these kids, like sending so many kids to the pros, the fact that I'm hoping that we'll see a first round draft pick, next year. Be talked about and happen from CU, which I mean, it's been a long time since something like that has happened. Um, yeah, I'm wondering too, like, yeah, will we see like a big sponsorship of Folsom Field start to happen? And local money starting to come in. The NIL collectives are being put together, but I'm wondering with Coach Prime, just as like you saw at Jackson State as well, more and more of the national dollars coming in here as well, because Boulder, it's a hidden gem. It really is, and now there's a star show to come here for. And again, it's a beautiful campus. There's everything that you want to do. When on Friday, or I'll probably post this tomorrow actually, because so many people will be reporting into campus here soon. I'm going to give a breakdown of just in the limited free time that you do get this summer. Here's like things to consider. How to get around the area, things to check out in Denver, things to check out in Boulder, what to do in the mountains, little things that you just need to know. Because, I mean, how could you not want to spend time out here, if you really got a reason to? And yeah, I think that's what I'm just so excited for. And before I end my monologue, what I want to say too is that just yesterday, it's like this is going to become like a coaching like springboard. Like people are going to want to coach here for what it's going to do for their careers, just like Alabama. And what's really cool is that we get to see it all unfold on a daily basis because of how methodical Coach Prime moves with social media. So let me know your questions, comments. I'll be in here for a little bit. Got to get going soon. Seize the day. Yeah, Merry Christmas. I think I said that. I am Alex. What's up, my brother? Do I like pizza? I like pizza. I'm one that actually likes Hawaiian pizza. I know that's controversial. Nessimos, what's up? Hope you're having a great night. And thanks for tuning in. Again, this one won't be for too long. Are you in a Starbucks parking lot? No. So my wife and I, one of our cars, we lease. It's a Nissan Leaf, and it's great. We got it after one of our cars got stolen and driven through a marijuana dispensary in a smash and grab a couple years ago. So that was a sucky situation because we were on one car for a little bit. And, if your car ever gets stolen and something like that, it's held for evidence. So I wasn't able to get an insurance check for like a couple months because they were holding it for evidence and all this stuff. It was a mess. But anyways, after our car got stolen, driven through a marijuana dispensary, we weren't ready to buy a car again after that. So there were some leasing deals going on for a Nissan Leaf, and it's just like our commuter car. We charge it once a week, and it gets us everywhere we need to go. But it's primarily her car, so that's why I'm out here charging it, and it's good. And what's nice with this lease is that we're way under the miles, and the cost of cars, I guess, have gone up quite a bit. So it's funny, like even putting miles on this car, I'll be able to sell back the lease for like at least a $3,000 profit, it seems like, based on the dealerships that I've talked to. So, leasing isn't always so bad, and you don't have the cost of gas with this, which is nice compared to my SUV because that takes premium. But, it's a nice little trade-off, and you just can't go long distances with it. But that's what we got the SUV for, is to go into the mountains. So, it does suck. It does suck, Nessimos. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, my other car that I had was a Honda Accord. I drove it for like 15 years almost. And, got to the point where all the locks were never working and anything like that. And, I was driving it like that in Texas and I never had any issues. But out here, Coach Prime talks about this. The crime rate is low out here, compared to other areas in the country. But since COVID, what's so funny is that like car thefts out here, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in or anything like that. It's happening all over. So, I mean, there's been, even in my apartment building, we have like an underground garage and stuff like that, but thefts still happen inside the garage. It's like, I don't know what you could do. And now certain insurance companies are charging more for like some of the cars that have worse anti-lock features, such as like I think it's like the Mitsubishi, and maybe Chevy has to do with it as well. Our car that was stolen prior was a Chevy. So again, I'm not really sure what happened, but man, it was crazy. I wake up one day to go do grocery shopping, and I drive in my car, and I come back and I notice like, hey, like my wife's car is like gone. And I called her. I was like, hey, did you go somewhere? And she's like, no, I'm just taking a nap. And I'm like, well, our car just got stolen. They were able to find it, that next day, but it was left abandoned, completely totaled. And it was actually used in 2 robberies, one out in Aurora, and then, which is like East Denver. I live in Northwest, and then somewhere in like Denver proper. So it was pretty crazy, but definitely like when you're here, or if you ever move here and stuff like that, it's just always good to have those, those steering wheel locks and all of that. Just making sure you're locking your car at night, because even talking with real estate agents out here and all that, they're just like, it doesn't matter where you live. Everywhere is being targeted. And I think you've seen like car thefts probably go up as a whole since COVID. But yeah, that's really it. It's probably not hyping up Colorado the best, but I mean, that's the reality of my life, since I've been here. You just gotta watch out, man. Let's see. Have you considered talking reality TV instead, like Survivor? Of course, man. I'm going to be opening up my NBA channel later this week. Probably the first show will happen with my friend Nick later next week. But the reality TV show, talking Love is Blind, talking Survivor, talking Next Level Chef, talking Hell's Kitchen, maybe. All those other crazy reality shows. There was one that was kind of like Survivor, that was like way more terrible. Maybe you can help me with it, Alex. It was hilarious though. Help me with it, because I think reality TV. What are my thoughts on Joe Flacco? I mean, if he can be a first-round pick, no doubt Shador can be number 1 pick overall, baby. That's what I'm trying to say. Although Joe Flacco, even back in the late 2000s when they weren't airing it out like crazy, he still threw for 4,200 yards his last year at Delaware on like a 63% completion percentage. So I need to go back and look at the attempts. But that man just aired it out his last year at Delaware, which is, it's insanity. The kind of numbers that he put up his last year. And but yeah, it's kind of weird, like none of those FCS quarterbacks, I talked about it a little bit ago, none of them have been like, they've lived up to the full potential that you would hope for, for an NFL franchise taking a quarterback in the first round. All of those guys, Carson Wentz, Trey Lance will probably be on another team here at some point, Joe Flacco, they've all been at other teams. They were never those guys like Mahomes or, whatever, that Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson should stay his whole career on the Ravens, but sometimes there's this bias against, running quarterbacks. And to be honest, I don't feel like Greg Roman was the best offensive coordinator for him the last couple of years. I feel like he really stagnated on what he was trying to do with the offense after his MVP year, and it just became predictable. But people don't realize that Lamar Jackson's an accurate quarterback. He's got a great arm, a serviceable arm. And you just got to get him. You got to get him out of the pocket. You got to get him throwing, maybe do some more designed rollouts, but it just didn't fit right. And of course, it's never going to work out well when you trade your best weapon, Hollywood Brown, who, again, as small as he was a touchdown machine. I know I'm going off the rails on here, but I just wish people would remain consistent. And it's going back to what I talked about yesterday, which is like, people are finding every little thing to get at Coach Prime for, finding every little thing to poke at his character, to try and find like a bad trait to make him look like such a bad guy. And all the while, you got all these other clowns that are running football programs that are white, that get the benefit of the doubt from the media, that get the benefit of the doubt from their programs, and that are given way longer leashes. And it's like we just forget about what they're, what they've done. And I just wish people could remain consistent, regardless of race, and it's just, it is what it is. I mean, you see like the stuff with, like Deshaun Watson, this past year and all of that, but it's like, you never hear about Brett Favre, with like all of his shenanigans in his career with the sending nudes and all that. And I mean, who even knows what's going on with the stuff with this whole welfare case, because now he's suing Shannon Sharp and Pat McAfee. I don't even know. Or like, you never hear about, it's like people just forgot everything about Ben Roethlisberger, and all that stuff. But then even though like Jameis Winston, his whole case with, I'm trying to think of that woman, what was her name? Erica Kinsman. If I remember correctly, like all that stuff like came out to be like false, but it's like Jameis Winston, people still hate him because of that. But it's like, it's always excused with guys like Ben Roethlisberger, and I just wish people would remain consistent when they're talking about these teams, when they're talking about these quarterbacks, because again, yeah, it's like Lamar Jackson, he had some things coming in here that he needed to work on into the NFL, but you got former NFL GMs and people saying he needs to switch to wide receiver, while all of a sudden with Josh Allen, it's just like, hey, he needs to improve his accuracy, but he's, a first round type of talent. Now they got way different type of talent in terms of like, what they're good at, I guess. But, I just wish people would remain consistent. And that's part of the reason why I'm trying to start these channels, is hopefully I can provide, some more of that consistency. But, I just call it as I see it, man. Like a lot of these talking heads, they just want to push certain narratives. They just want to push certain agendas. And, Zion, 22-15. They wanted that man to be a wide receiver, and he won a Heisman in college. Absolutely. Yeah. And, Baker Mayfield gets drafted first overall. And or like Sam Darnold, is drafted within the top 5, while he was still throwing a ton of interceptions at USC. It's frustrating. And, I think we are making progress, I feel like, as a society, because again, you see so many more, black quarterbacks starting in the NFL now than compared to 20 years ago, which is great, and more dual threat quarterbacks, which is great. And it doesn't seem to be like, but we still got ways to go when it comes to the consistency. Like we're making improvements, but again, you got Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes coming out for the draft, and the Chicago Bears decide to pick a guy that had 11 games started in college football. Like, what? So, Zion, yeah, you're bringing up a great point, man. Cordell Stewart was the same when he was coming back out of CU. Yeah, of course, because Pittsburgh, I think early on in his career, correct me if I'm wrong, they had him, running routes. They had him lining up at wide receiver and all that. Yeah, it's so true. Again, I feel like we're progressing, which is great. And, I don't feel like you hear as much of the narratives, with Cam Newton coming out. Cam Newton, in my opinion, I'm trying to think. he's my favorite college quarterback of all time. I don't know like how you would want or like how you would rank him in terms of all-time greats for college quarterbacks, but like to me, like he's my favorite all-time quarterback. He's like, yeah, like he was just amazing. But of course, it's like, people knock his character coming in, and they make a whole big deal about, I guess, the voicemail and being offered money from Mississippi State. It's like acting like none of this stuff, happens at any of these programs with any of these players. But it's like it always seems to me, it's like Cam Newton was just crucified for all of that within his season at Auburn and then coming out into the NFL draft. But then when Johnny Manziel gets caught, signing autographs after his Heisman year, all of a sudden the narrative is like, well, he should be able to go out and make money. you know, we just need to remain consistent. Yeah, Lean German, it's coming, but look at the resistance. Absolutely. Again, like this whole thing, it's just a mirror on society. And what I love about all this is that, sports is it's the place that can change culture. It's the place that does impact that. We've seen sports change society, and we're entering another era of that. There's going to be a lot of things in which our society is challenged and pushed and pulled, and I think sports can be one of those avenues that unites people from different ways of thinking and all that, and can get people to reconsider their ingrained perspectives and beliefs. So, I mean, that's like this whole culture thing that Prime's building, man. It's going to be, it's not just going to be at CU, but it's going to be societal, just like it has been. Zion, Pitt wanted him to play wide receiver. I still can't believe the Bears drafted that kid over Mahomes and Watson. I know, Mitchell Trubisky. It's crazy. The double standard's always going to be, we have to call them out just like you're doing it now. Yeah, and, I'm thinking out loud too. I'll read these comments first. Everybody has eyes and can see. Always will be a double standard. Look at all the critics are coming at Coach Prime. He's not a gold jacket Hall of Famer. Like, can you imagine Tom Brady being scrutinized if he was ever a football coach like this? Ha! Oh man, if Tom Brady wanted to do an Amazon documentary on or an ESPN documentary on his coaching a college football team, everybody would be eating that up, and there would be no scrutiny, and there would be no storylines and narratives about wondering about what his intentions are about doing that sort of TV show. Am I right? It's just so funny. The double standard's hilarious, and I want to encourage y'all, like on Twitter, keep those bookmarks. Because as this thing continues to roll out, and especially, man, like once Prime gets that first national championship, wherever that is, I hope it's here. I think it's going to be here. We're going to have a party celebrating all this, calling out all the hypocrites. And I mean, that's what you see what's going on in a different way, with Nikola Jokic and all this stuff, that I just think is so hilarious. But that's an NBA talk, and that's different to some extent. But, I'm trying to, they would never scrutinize Tom Brady because he fits the mold. And again, man, like that's why we need to expand the voices that we listen to. It can't just be the BS on FS1 and on ESPN. And, there are some guys on there that I'm a fan of, but a lot of times, man, it's just, it's so hypocritical. And none of these guys ever truly take responsibility and apologize for like if they've done something wrong or if they are wrong, like just having a wrong perspective, or they've changed their mind about something. They always make it look like, well, this is what I really meant. I just wish we could have some more authentic people. So that's why it's like, let's continue to push out these voices that just are real, like, again, like I talked about this yesterday. It's like, me growing up white, white people, we are conditioned to believe that growing up that racism does not exist. And so, you go in the textbooks and, you see like all the Martin Luther King photos are in black and white. The stuff with Emmett Till, it's all black and white to make it seem like it's so far away, and we're past all of that and all of that. But as we get older in society, we see that those things aren't true. That there's still so many things that we have to move forward with, and when white people, are called out on that, for some reason we get all sensitive because it's like breaking down our whole, I guess, like how we've been told to, believe society is or something like that. And like, we don't have responsibility in it or whatever. But, it's just important, like white people, like, please, for the love of God, like, just diversify, like the voices that you're listening to. And that's like, just start with sports. There's so many great sports commentators that aren't on ESPN and that aren't on the big media companies, that aren't on, FS1 and all of that. And that's just what, starting years ago on YouTube when I was 15, finding different voices, finding different perspectives. That's what got me thinking differently, and, starting to understand, how I can be improving, and, how, I can be, changing myself and my biases for the better. And, it's, yeah, man, but we need more white people. We need to call this out more because, people say, well, you don't have the right to bring up the race card, yada, yada, yada. Like, I can call this out because, like, I've thought this way before. Like, I've thought this way at different points in my life, or like in different situations in my life. So I can call out when I can see when there's like inherent bias or like unconscious bias, like, and there, like, we just got to do a better job of speaking about that collectively in sports. This is a great way in which these hypocrisies can be pointed out, and we can grow together and come together and just learn to listen to other people, and empathize. Okay. And Pete is so lazy. Yeah, man. Lean German. Oh, that's why Coach Prime gets all the hate. They just want to keep the coaches and QB positions. Exactly. And you see it with all the BS with the head coaches, and especially in the NFL. It pissed me off so much when, man, what was the Miami coach that was fired or whatever, but he sued the NFL or some different teams for just, not even taking his interviews for their head coaching position seriously, that it was just a Rooney Rule thing. And and the Broncos were a part of that. Like, that is so embarrassing. Brian Flores, thank you. Like, it's inexcusable. And it's it's just so frustrating that like, I get it. Like, I get that sometimes I guess you need to create incentive, to create change, right? But to me, like, and I want to know your thoughts on this too, y'all, because I think it's good. Like, if your coaches or coordinators are minorities and they're hired, or you hire a minority coach as your head coach, you get extra draft compensation. But like, that's great. But at the same time, it's like, part of me is like sad that like the state of these power structures are where they're at, and the people in power are so stubborn and narrow-minded that like that has to be the incentive to create change. It's like they have to be given something extra for their benefit to just do the right thing, Yeah, Brian Flores should have never lost his job. And yeah, and that guy, that Miami owner, it's like he was asking him to, tank games and stuff like that. I totally believe it, by the way. Yeah, Zion, they knew Cap was, I'm going back here. Perfect example. Look at Colin Kaepernick, who took a stand and lost his NFL career for what he stood on. Then all that stuff happened with George Floyd. Absolutely, man. Like, Cap knew he was talking about they say the military, about the or the narrative about the military, like it was all smokescreen. And again, like that's why it's so important that we got to be promoting other voices. We got to be listening to other voices that aren't just related to these media companies, because they got these narratives that they just want to cause controversy. They just want to cause division and all of that. And it's just sad because we just weren't listening. You know, and there could have been so much more progress made as a society, but we decide to point fingers and blame. And you got guys like Drew Brees coming out there, just again, it's just mind blowing. It's like, I don't know how you could spend 20 years in an NFL locker room and then just come out and say that. It's like, I just don't understand it. But yeah, like y'all are right. Like that's why Coach Prime is so, um, he's a threat. He's a threat to everything. He's a threat to, yeah, man, like these old narratives are going to have to die. And again, like, people do get threatened, by the idea that a black man would be the face of college football, and that's what I'm sure Coach Prime, is building towards right now. Like he wants to be the greatest who's ever done it in college coaching, just like he was at the cornerback position. But it's tough. Like also too, yeah, it's tough because now with social media, which is great, we have the chance to get our opinions out there more and all that, which is great. And opinions that aren't necessarily like narrative driven by some of these larger media companies. But at the same time, I want to know what y'all think about this too. But it's like with social media, that's also given voice to people on the extremes that didn't have that before. I was just talking about this with my wife the other day. It's like, now you see a segment of people and they can get their voice out there, that's talking about how they're all pissed off about, Disney World and Disney and having, Little Mermaid who, isn't a white redhead. Right. And it's so crazy. But it's like without social media, I mean, again, and I was just a kid, so maybe y'all can correct me, but it's like, did we growing up, like, were the news stations, like, was Fox News talking about how like Nickelodeon and Disney had so many kids or shows on that had like black actors as the main characters, like Keenan and Kel and all that were some of the shows that I grew up on. But I never felt like you saw an outrage from those things 20 years ago. But now we're 20 years forward, we should be more progressive, as a society. But with social media, man, it just gives voice to the people on the extremes of things. And that's why it's important that we have a responsibility to make sure that we're getting out here, that we're putting our voice out. Um, yeah, GQ Hall of Famer. Thank you. Um, Thank you for that, Capio. I'm getting a call. I gotta let you guys go, but all this to say, Zion, lean German. Still? Still can't hear me? Let me know if you can hear me now. Can't hear me? All that to say, Okay, cool. All that to say, y'all, I got to get out of here. I'm getting a call, but the culture's changing. This is going to be something that we need to continue to talk about, to call out these biases, these hypocrisies, and that's where we're moving forward from here. So y'all take it easy, have a blessed night, and as always, Sko Buffs.